The new Star Trek Strange New Worlds trailer is here, but is Star Trek leaning too hard into comedy? Let's break down the tone, the laughs, and what it means for the upcoming season. Well, hey everyone, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Well, we had the trailer drop for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 a week or two ago, and it kind of got me thinking about some of the content we've got coming up in the third season of Strange New Worlds. And the fact that there's a little bit of I guess maybe a shift towards the more quirky and comedic kind of style episodes. And I sort of started thinking about all of the content that we've got coming up in Season 3, and it kind of made me think, oh geez, hang on, are we changing the entire tone of the show to be a bit more quirky, a bit more comedic this season? So I thought I'd run through today some of the episodes and their content that we know we've got coming up in the third season of Strange New Worlds. Is this all comedy? Is it going to be any drama this season? Is it all going to be quirky comedy kind of stuff? Because let's break it down. For starters, we know that there's the Vulcan episode where our human characters have to go on some mission where they have to become Vulcans for some reason, and we've got a lot of quirky stuff going on with Pike and Chapel and Uhura and everything who have been Vulcanized, and they're bossing around Spock and everything, and it looks like the episode's going to play for laughs. You know, we saw a sneak peek scene of this last year, and it looked like a kind of a quirky episode that was, you know, leaning into the more comedic side. Obviously, we've got the holodeck episode, the Hollywood murder mystery, which has got all of our characters in very 70s looking clothes. We've got Pike looking hilarious here in a curly hair and glasses, and everyone's, you know, very 70s glam kind of look for this episode. So it definitely seems like this is going to be another episode of Strange New Worlds that's kind of leaning into the more quirky, comedic sort of storytelling aspects. We've got Rhys Darby, and he's obviously reprising the role of Trelane, which, from the, as I said, looks of the trailer, we saw him doing the whole, you know, finger snap thing. So we got him being kind of a Q, and we know from the original series episode with Trelane in it, and also all of the appearances from John Delancey as Q in Next Generation, DS9, Voyager and everything, along with all of the other actors who've played Qs and everything in the past, from Corbin Burnson to Susie Plaxton and Garrett Graham and everything. We always know that the Q character is a little bit quirky. He's got a bit of a sense of humour. It's a bit wacky. Wacky stuff goes on when Q's around, and Trelane, obviously, in the original series is no different to that. This just like makes me think that obviously our Rhys Darby Q episode, or Trelane episode, is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun in a comedic, quirky kind of way. We've seen images of the Enterprise under the command of Kirk in a very 1960s original series inspired way. Now, whether this is part of the shenanigans that's going on with Trelane/Q's visit with Rhys Darby, that he kind of transforms the Enterprise into a kind of a quirky 1960s kind of vibe, remains to be seen. But here is another element of this more comedic, quirky element that the show's leaning into for Season 3. We've got weird stuff going on with analog telephones where the Enterprise has to be wired up with old retro analog kind of technology for some reason, which again kind of seems like it's, you know, a bit of a quirky thing that goes on. And we've got the Centenary of the Federation episode where it seems like we've got a little bit of romance stuff happening, maybe between Uhura and somebody else. We've got Patton Oswalt playing a Vulcan. Now let's face it, you're not going to get Patton Oswalt onto the show unless it's in a quirky comedic kind of capacity. So that's another element of the show that's going to be that way inclined. And it kind of is starting to look a little bit to me like the only aspect of Season 3 that we know so far is going to play completely for dramatics and for tension and for suspense is the Gorn Rescue episode, which will be obviously the first episode of the season. It's all carrying on from the events of the last episode of Season 2. Obviously, there's going to be a big rescue mission and a big fight and everything, and then that's going to play seriously, I guess, for the opener of the third season. But apart from this Gorn Rescue episode, everything else I can think of, from the Centenary, from Patton Oswalt appearing as a Vulcan for some sort of Centenary episodes, analog telephones, Klingon zombies, which I guess is maybe leaning into, you know, a bit more of a suspense horror kind of vibe. There's going to be, you know, some romantic stuff between Chapel and Spock and Corby, no doubt, in some sort of love triangle. triangle scenario. We've got the kitschy 60s kind of Star Trek look. We've got Trelane. We've got Hollywood murder mystery holodeck episodes and humans becoming Vulcans. It kind of makes me think, hey, are we like 90% comedy this season? Because it is kind of feeling a little bit like that based on what we've seen so far. Now, I love a good quirky comedic episode. I love to have a laugh at some of these episodes that we get. They're always good value. But I don't think you can have every episode in the season being a quirky comedy episode. I think you can throw a couple of quirky comedy episodes in, and you can have and have some ones that play for drama, have some ones that play for suspense, have one that plays for horror, whatever. You obviously got to mix up your genres a little bit, and obviously some of the best aspects of Star Trek in the past have been seasons where you get a good mix of genres, but you can't all just have one genre. You can't just go, oh, well, this season every episode's going to be a comedy or a quirky episode. That's a bit too much. That's all a bit too much one-sided in the diet. You got to mix up your Star Trek diet, a bit of meat, bit of potatoes, bit of veggies, a bit of everything. But from what we've seen so far, it definitely feels like we're getting all dessert with all the comedy stuff that's happening this coming season of the show. So I would be very interested to see if we're going to get a second trailer before the show airs in obviously the US summer, or Northern Hemisphere summer this year sometime. So I guess sometime between June and August. So I wonder whether we're going to be seeing some aspects of the show that don't lean into the comedy element. I'm very interested to see, because it definitely seems like our diet's a little bit one-sided right now. But what do you guys think? Do you think, from what we've seen so far of all the clips from season 3, that we've got too much quirky comedy going on this season? Do you love quirky comedy episodes of Star Trek? You think, yeah, I love these episodes. Bring them on. Give me as many as you want. Or is it kind of like a bit too much sugar? Thanks. Let's just maybe we need some bit of some other tones going on as well in Star Trek here. Leave your thoughts in the comments section, and we'll get chatting about that. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, be sure to do so. Click on that big subscribe button and stay up to date with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. And be sure to check out my merch in the merch shop. Plenty of cool t-shirts like this one, hoodies, mugs, caps, mugs, stickers, you name it. It's all there, always at very reasonable prices, and it really helps support the channel. So pick yourself up a bargain. I'll be back pretty soon with the next video. We'll catch you soon.